Now, there's another clip.
Yeah.
This one is after I play a difficult forehand and have to come back to my backhand. And that's way too loud, but I'm looping two forehand. Um, and I move, and the ball comes a little bit wider than I expected it to. And then it comes back, and I play my backhand. So here, my paddle does drop, and it's a larger swing. But when my paddle drops, the power starts from that point. So it's not like I'm dropping the paddle, lifting it up, and then going forwards, where it's almost like a square. It's still a direct shot where my power starts from um, wherever my paddle starts. So it's just one fluid motion, and that's the point that I really want to highlight. Hey guys, what's going on? It's Louie here, and welcome to another VOD review. This is another one that I'm super excited to do because we're going to be taking a look at a match from Jake. And the reason this one's interesting is because he was actually a private student of mine. A while back, we did a couple or so private lessons, one-on-one. So it's a player that I've actually got to see kind of practice in person. So let's go ahead and go through the context. Very, very standard setup. Standard forehand and backhand rubber, about 700 USATT rating, and goals. Tentative goal is to hit and maintain 1,000 USATT. I believe that the core of my problems are inconsistent and or suboptimal practice, which stops me from having consistency in the game. Overall goal is to have a good system in place for practice, and I'm also having a hard time hitting long serves. I believe it is because I do not wait long enough for the ball. So one goal I have is to be more consistent with hitting long serves. Another problem I'm having is with looping backspin consistently. It seems to go more over or to the ceiling, so improving my loop against backspin to be more safe would be a goal. Practice 1 to 2 hour practice weekly with Andy. Practice for most of the time and usually a match at the end of the session. So once we get into the notes, because I know that you don't have the chance to practice as like much more frequently, I'll try to give you some exercises that I think you should prioritize during your practice to help you improve faster. And of course, I'll take a look at your match and everything to try to give me some context. But that sounds good. Do not have a lot of tournament experience. I've only joined 2 tournaments. First was back in 2017. And latest was the Yola teams in 23. I only started to play more frequently around the end of 22 and only recently started weekly about half a year ago. So really you haven't been playing for too long yet. The only games you play are with Andy. This practice match was after about 2 hours of multiball. We are pretty gassed, but I tried to play as best as I could with my current stamina. We usually practice just one ball, but recently tried multiballing. This is the multi-ball practice I was experimenting with to help me with my weaknesses. General play. I can't really hit these consistently, but some pointers for how to improve on this drill would be appreciated. And then link to the match. Alrighty, let's go ahead and get started. And just a couple of things to preface this. Firstly, you can absolutely improve playing once a week, especially if you focus on the correct things when you're practicing. But the rate of improvement is going to be a lot slower than the person who's playing 2 to 3 times per week. So when I give you your notes, I'll give you some practice routines and I'll give you some goals so that you can measure your improvement and just try not to compare yourself to others. Try to just kind of gauge your own personal improvement because you absolutely can improve at this rate. It's just not going to be quite as quick. And the other thing is if you're able to, I would always recommend trying to find more than one person to practice with because when you're just playing with Andy, you'll get very used to his serves. You'll get very used to the way he plays. And then the second you play someone else, no matter what they do, it's going to surprise you just because it'll 100% be a style you've never seen before since you've only ever played against one style. So if at all possible, I know you can only play once a week, but maybe sometimes schedule to play with Andy, sometimes schedule to play with somebody else, sometimes find a player that's better than you, sometimes worse than you, but try to find more people to practice with just because it'll kind of give you more pattern recognition against different styles. And then when you go to play a tournament, you won't necessarily be quite as caught off guard when you see something new. But with that out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and watch the multi-ball first, and then we'll go ahead and take a look at the match. Alright, let's go ahead and take a look at the multi-ball. And I apologize if my nose is stuffy, or you can kind of hear it through the microphone. I have horrible allergies in the spring, so I am doing my best here, but I do apologize if it's affecting the audio quality. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Overall, this looks really good. For a 700 level, this is really good. Yeah, it's not bad. Your practice level is way better than 700. And I know it's multi-ball, so you're trying to give it like right to Andy right here so that he can just give you an easy push to the forehand. Just keep in mind that in a game, you really want that push to be landing right here. This is a dangerous area because this is the spot where your opponent can loop. So you're not necessarily going to get the long ball to your forehand if your push is landing here all the time. But you'll always, against lower rated players, you'll always get it when you're playing out here. But other than that, everything looks good. The backhand technique could be a little bit sharper. So I'll show you what I mean if I go frame by frame. Let me find one where you transition to the backhand. All right, so forehand is good. This is good. This is good. And then, let's see if I can catch it. Yeah, this is bad. So, the spot that your paddle's in right now, right here, is correct. This is the spot your paddle should be to start your backhand against topspin. And then from this spot, your elbow should just rotate forwards. So your paddle should just rotate up and forwards from that spot. And then your backhand will be super consistent. But if we watch your transition, you're fine. YouTube is lagging. You're fine. And then really you should stop here. And then basically close your angle from this point. Don't drop the paddle anymore. And drive the ball forwards. But instead, when the ball's coming out to you, you drop the paddle all the way down here as if you're going to loop backspin. And then you're not really using that to get extra power. So it's just kind of you're dropping it for no reason. And then instead of swinging, you're just lifting right here. You're lifting the paddle up to the correct point. And then you're starting your backhand forwards. And this is way too much extra movement. From the forehand, once you finish that forehand by your left eyebrow, you should be really sharp and basically just immediately bring your paddle to the backhand and be ready to go forwards. And I actually have a recent clip of me doing a similar drill to this. If I can't find it, I'll put a subtitle, but I'm going to try and find this clip and put it up on the screen right now just to kind of give you an example of the correct way. Alright, so I'm cutting in. I found a couple of clips that I want to use as an example. I couldn't find the exact clip I was looking for where I transitioned from the forehand. But I have a clip where I'm just going backhand to backhand that shows the technique really well. And then I also have a clip from a rally where I kind of transition from forehand to backhand. And I want to highlight that it is sometimes okay to bring your paddle back or drop your paddle a little bit more to get extra power. But if you're dropping the paddle to a certain point, your swing should start from that point. So this is just a clip of me going backhand to backhand against topspin. There's no like transition against the transition from the forehand. But look at the backhand. So like when I start, where my paddle begins is where my power begins. So because I'm playing against topspin and it's a compact shot, I don't bring my paddle very far back. I just start it at the ball's height, and from the point of contact, bring the paddle forwards. And you can see Yudi is actually doing the same thing. It's very compact. There's no unnecessary movement. And you're basically doing the equivalent of you're trying to play the same shot I'm playing right here, but you're starting with your paddle under the table and then bringing it up and then playing this shot. And you want to really just start at this point and go straight forwards. And you can see it's uber consistent. Like I could And I was learning here, so I wasn't as consistent. But even here, I can rally 20 in a row easily, and I could just sit here for hours playing this shot, not get super tired, and be fine. Now there's another clip. This one is after I play a difficult forehand and have to come back to my backhand, and that's way too loud. But I'm looping two forehand, and I move, and the ball comes a little bit wider than I expected it to, and then it comes back, and I play my backhand. So here, my paddle does drop, and it's a larger swing. But when my paddle drops, the power starts from that point. So it's not like I'm dropping the paddle, lifting it up, and then going forwards, where it's almost like a square. It's still a direct shot where my power starts from wherever my paddle starts. So it's just one fluid motion, and that's the point that I really want to highlight. Overall, it's not bad because this is better than a 700 level. Because you're landing more than you're missing. It's just a small thing that I noticed. There's just too much movement on the back end. Like there's a drop with your elbow, and then it lifts up, and then you start the swing instead of being sharp, going straight from the forehand to the backhand. Let's go ahead and take a look at the match. Alrighty, match time. That's really good. There's no way you're 700. I think I said it even when I was coaching you. I think you've only played 2 tournaments. There's no way, there's no planet that if you were able to play more tournaments, your rating would adjust itself and you'd end up higher. Your level is much higher than 700. But I think you're getting a little bit too caught up in the short game. And again, excuse my coughing and cleared my throat. I have allergies, but I think you're a little bit too focused on the short touches, and really until you're at like 1800, 2000 level, a good long push is always going to be better than a failed short push. So I think it's this. This is a perfect example. I think this is the one you pop up. Yeah, so he serves. We'll go frame by frame. You're a little bit caught by surprise because you're expecting it long, and then you react to it being a little bit shorter, which is the correct way to approach it. There's nothing wrong with that. But then your reaction is, oh crap, I'm caught off guard, let me touch short. And I think you're giving a little bit too much respect to Andy's loop. And not in the sense that his loop is bad, but in the sense that you need to trust yourself a little bit more. And be like, oh, I'm caught by surprise? Alright, I'm going to push really long here, show me what you got. And if he loops it, it's going to be a weak loop. If he pushes it, it's going to come straight out to your sweet spot on the forehand, and there's going to be nothing uncomfortable about it. Or you could even challenge the forehand and just push long right here. And if it's a good push, all Andy can do is spin it up slowly. He's not going to kill it. But if you botch the short push like you do right here, you open the opportunity for him to kill it. And you win the point anyway, but that's I digress. That's better. That's not bad. That's good. That's good. Really good. Really good. It's clean. That's fine. That's actually fine. Look, you looked like apologetic after that point. That's probably the cleanest point you've played this whole match so far. Like that's the way you should be approaching the points. That's fine. That's fine. Yeah, I mean, so far, everything you're doing on paper is correct. I think you just need pattern recognition. Like, because you haven't played a ton, how many times have you looped and had them actually return it to your forehand? Probably not too many. You've probably had a lot of situations where you just looped and you won the point, or before that, you probably had a lot of situations where you just missed the loop. You practiced landing the loop. Okay, it started hitting. And now your loop is landing. Most of the time it wins the point, and you don't see this block enough to be ready for it. But I think just more repetition, like if you play 100 more times, which if you're playing once a week is going to take a while. But eventually, like the 20th time you see this, you'll be expecting it. The 30th time, you'll be expecting it. By the 100th time, you'll be expecting it before he's even made contact with the ball, and it'll just be muscle memory. So, because the way you're approaching it there is correct. Like, you serve, it's good serve, you get the third ball, you loop, everything there is right. It's just pattern recognition and being ready for the follow-up. Yeah, too many short serves, which I know sounds ridiculous, but it also has to do with the fact that you don't play enough to have the luxury of practicing the short game until you've perfected the long game. And what I mean by that is you need as many repetitions as possible where you get a clean long ball, a clean long third ball that you can loop. And you need to achieve that by playing long, stable pushes, long, heavy serves, everything that you can in your power to have the third ball come out long to your side of the table. And just have the mentality of, if he happens to loop it and my push is good, he's not going to kill it. It's going to be spinny, and he's probably going to miss just as much, if not more, than I am. But you don't have the luxury to play these short pushes. It's just it's too hard. And I've said it before, even to my really high level students, you can be over 2,000 with no short game whatsoever. You can get over 2,000 just by pushing long and having really good ABC table tennis. Hell, if you watched my Quadri Aruna analysis, even when he's playing, half of his pushes are just long, and he's playing at a world-class level. So really, you don't need these shots. Oh, what happened here? Yeah, that's another issue with the short ball. It's like, you serve short, you don't know if he's going to return short, long. He could go right here, he could go right here, he could go right here. You just don't know. There's too many variables, and so you're just caught off guard, and then not really sure what to do. Just misreading the serve. That's good. That's really good. Very good serve. Best serve of the game. Yeah. It's not super major, but just I'll point it out so you see it. Look at your feet on the loop. It's something, again, that this will just get better with practice and pattern recognition, but watch both of your feet and the way the direction that they move during this. So you actually lead with the wrong foot, and then you kind of stretch and then step in with the right leg right here and end up crossing your feet as you loop, which is why it misses out. All you need there is a very quick shuffle to the left, standard footwork, and then kind of a standard loop. So right leg moves first, left leg moves second, but the width of your feet when you play the shot should be the same. Let's see if I can find it. Should be the same, almost kind of like how they are right here. This should be how your feet are positioned when you're looping the ball as well. That's better. That's fine. You missed that one for the same reason you were making mistakes during the practice drill, where I said you're dropping your paddle on the back end. That's why you missed that one. Same mistake. I'll point it out again. Watch your feet. See how they're kind of... Your contact point on the ball is happening while your feet are crossed. Your contact is almost always happening here where you're off balance. And ideally, the contact point should be happening right after the movement so that your feet are in a more stable position. That's fine. That's good. Yeah, backhand technique should also be a little bit sharper. I think I kind of explained it in another video. But basically, when you start your loop, you can see your paddle is like right here. And then when you finish your loop, your paddle ended up kind of right here with a different angle. Ideally, it should finish a little bit more forwards right here. The distance between your elbow and your body shouldn't change for the most part during the shot. It should be more of a rotation than a push. So ideally, you get this ball and you're good here. This should be fixed. Like there should be like almost like from here upwards. Once you're in this position, this part of your body shouldn't move at all. Like this should just be frozen. And then just this right here rotates up. That's the best way to explain the loop. This oops, in red, come on, shouldn't move at all. And then this here in blue should be the part of your arm that rotates. So this should rotate, this should not rotate. And it'll give you more topspin and more consistency compared to kind of pushing your whole elbow forwards and swinging to the side. It's just something, again, that'll come with practice, but you're losing spin because you're hitting across the ball. That's good. That's good. Really, really good. A little bit impatient. I think you need to also, like, your gut told you that the ball was going to be long here. Like, you had a feeling it was going to be long. You trusted your gut, you moved, and then you second-guessed yourself, like, wait, am I wrong? Is it going to be short? When really you should have just trusted yourself and let the ball come out. And if you miss, you miss, but trust yourself. Really nice loop. I really like the placement there. I think part of it might also just be focus, because some of the serves I think you're just outright misreading, but you know what they are. Yeah, same there. You didn't trust yourself. Like, I think you knew the ball was going to be long, and then you're like, wait, is it actually going to be short? And you second guessed yourself. Same there. You're crossing your feet as you're making contact. Yeah, I don't think I need to watch much more. I think I got my notes for you. Alrighty, so I'm actually going to type all my thoughts out and then I'll explain them, so I will be back. Alrighty, I've got my notes for you. It took me a second to think these out, but because of your practice frequency, it's a little bit of a unique situation, so let me explain this. We really need to focus on ABC fundamentals and basically getting all of the ABC fundamentals correct before we move on to the more advanced stuff. So while there's always an exception to what I'm about to explain for some of the advice I'm giving, consider this like the absolute rule of law with no exceptions. You have to follow this in all circumstances, no matter what, until your level is a lot higher. That way we're just not overcomplicating, we're just nailing down the fundamentals and getting this stuff right. So firstly, when you're making contact with the ball, you need to make sure that your feet are not crossed or in motion. So for example, when you're getting the long balls to your forehand, we need to move first, have our feet a little more than shoulder width apart, have it balanced, and then play the loop. A lot of the time, you're crossing your legs or stepping into a long ball or making contact while moving, and it leads to you being off balance, which leads to the inconsistency. And I think part of this is that when you believe the ball is long, you second guess yourself, and you really should trust your intuition. I think sometimes you're getting in your own head, which is why you end up moving or stepping in while you're playing the loop. Okay, second note, no more short balls at all. Absolutely no exceptions. You cannot play a short ball. So every short push you do, every short serve you do, next match is going to be 1 strike. 3 strikes, I close the VOD and tell you to come back once the issue is fixed. We need to get as many repetitions as possible on the long balls, and the short game is adding too much to the equation right now, and we just need to drill down the pattern recognition. Alright, and finally I'm going to give you some practice drills. The multi-ball is fine, but if you're consistent enough to do single ball, I'd actually prefer it, and then we can kind of focus more on the multi-ball later. And to track your progress on this and see whether you're improving, count how many times you can get, like how many balls you can get in a row. So maybe week 1, try to get 10 in a row consistently. Or if you can't do 10, 5 in a row consistently. Then the next week 10, the next week 15, or 16. Just you should see small improvements in how many you can get in a row each week. And ideally try to get to at least 20, maybe 30. And once you're like, you can confidently say, yeah, let's do this drill. I'm 100%. I'll get at least 20, 30 in a row. Once you're at that point, we can move on to some different drills. But the first one we're going to do is just simple 2 backhand, 2 forehand. Both shots should be loops. So the backhand should be like a close to the table loop. I'll see if I can find a clip of me doing this. I don't think I have one, but basically a close to the table backhand loop where you're just rotating your elbow, followed by a standard forehand loop, and focus on very, very quick, sharp transitions, specifically from your second forehand when you're getting ready to move and your first backhand after you finish moving. You don't want to drop your paddle. Your paddle is at your left eyebrow as you finish the first or the second forehand, and it's sharp drops and comes right to the backhand, and you're just ready to go forwards. No dropping the paddle, no making a semicircle or coming like none of that. Just sharp transitions between both shots. And let's clean this up a little bit. Next, once you've done this one, you switch to a variation where you serve long underspin to your practice partner's backhand, have them push long to your forehand, loop that ball to their backhand, and then immediately they block to your backhand. And again, you're focusing on the transition. So you finish your forehand loop against underspin, and you should have a very sharp transition to the backhand. And then just continue with 2 backhand, 2 forehand. And finally, this is the same thing, but instead of pushing to the forehand, they push to the backhand, and you continue. And now this one, just focus on the technique with your backhand loop. So no pushing or coming across the ball. Rotate your elbow and use it as the pivot point. So this is everything I want you to focus on right now. I think you'll just get better over time with pattern recognition. And the next match you play, I want you to keep it super, super simple. So next match, no short balls at all. Just focus on the long balls. Keep it clean. ABC table tennis. Let's get it tidied up. And I think your level is already higher than 700. We just need a little bit more pattern recognition and a little bit more practice, and we'll definitely get there. So I do look forward to seeing another one from you. And to everyone watching at home, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a big thumbs up. And until next time, adios.